It's not as nice as I would like it to be, but that means I've got no problem chopping a great big hole in here if somebody happens to have a Ducati Monster engine they want to donate. Seriously. So anyway, great big piece of cardboard. This piece is exactly the same size as the last piece of steel that I have. So we're going to use this to template the bonnet. We've got the bonnet frame. We're going to template the bonnet skin to make it easier to mark out and cut out later. So first thing I'm going to do is put a center line down and then line up the bonnet's frame over that. Then we can start wrapping it up and marking it out. So that's the plan anyway. Yeah, might as well just get started. That's the template. This big section here, that's going to stay on. That's going to get wrapped around to make the sides of the nose cone. It will get cut off here later on, but that's after I've put the curve in it. Now I've got marked here and up here where the actual curve for this radius starts, so I can bend it. Now I think what I'm going to do is just cut template down to as short as I can this way, because there's no point cutting up all that extra steel. Alright, just need some steel now, so this piece should do. Now I'm just going to cut some holes in the template so that I can put a ruler across these marks, mark directly onto the steel. Now I could just use a center punch and dunk, dunk, but then I'll have a dent in my panel, and I don't want a dent in my panel. So cut the template again. Now, all I need is a great big piece of pipe to clamp down on this. So it turns out the only pipe that I have that's the right size is holding up the roof. So it took me quite a bit to get this lined up on my lines properly, but it's there now, so time to bend. That was pretty good. Well, that fit pretty well. I've got some faint marks on here, so I'm just going to come out about 20 to 25 mil past them marks. Then I'm going to cut this whole edge off, and I'm going to come up here so that will match up square with the front of the chassis. So then all this part here will get cut back a bit further, but that will form the nose cone. Now after I cut out these side panels, I'll be able to get in here with the stretcher shrinker and shrink this section, so that'll put a curve in the top, because, well, clubmans have a curve in their nose. Let's see how this goes. Not entirely certain how well it's going to work, but you never know if you don't try. Beautiful. Shrinky shrinky time. Have you been playing with the new shrinker? Your legs are looking pretty short. You may notice this is not my stretcher shrinker. I've got this one on loan because it's a deep throat, meaning that in here it's got a lot more space so the material can go right in. Mine, I can only do the very edge of a piece. I'll start having a go at the body panels and see what happens. It's a little bit shorter, and it's changed shape quite a bit. Now, I stopped filming because, well, this is the first time I've really tried to form up a complex panel. I've made a little rust repair for a door before and that worked alright. Now, I did lots of shrinking in this whole area. I did quite a bit on the English wheel and this bit to put the curve in, but it's kind of flat like it's meant to be, and then it bulges up a little. I did a lot of shrinking right here just to try and kick the nose down to get it to look like it should. To get rid of this lump here, I'd probably have to put a cut through here and bend it down and weld it, but I don't really want to do that, so I'm not going to. It's got an alright shape to it. Now, before I can do the nose, I think I'm going to weld this onto the actual bonnet frame, and then this front section I can trim it to shape and start working it, and whatever I end up with is how it'll be. I think I need to clamp it down and then start tack welding. So, that's all welded to the frame now and trimmed around the bottom to suit. Not quite enough curvature in this front panel. So, I'm going to go along and shrink these corners to try to get them to pull in. I'll try to get this top section to shrink down a bit more to get it to tuck down as well. We'll see what happens. But ideally the nose is going to come back to around here somewhere with the radius. So, more shrinking. Alright, new plan is mandrel bends. got a nice radius that way. It's about the right size for the cubman. So if I get these two pieces of scrap, cut them and make them into an oval shape, I can just weld that into the front of the nose cone and should be good. That will do. It's not perfect, but it's what I can do in the time that I've got to make this video. So I'll get the bonnet back up here. Now this piece is going to fit down inside here somewhere. All the sheet metal will get formed around to match it. Hopefully it'll look right. So that'll go down there somewhere. This is the first time I've actually had a go at forming a panel, and well, I did kind of choose an intricate panel to try and start with. Yeah, it's all learning, I guess. That's all tacked up. I'm just going to make a fill piece that goes across here. And then this is ready for final welding, I think. All I need is a little number 7 grill. And a lot of body filler. That's looking pretty good, I think. Now, for this video I think I'm just going to leave that there. Because, well, next step's just welding, sanding, tapping out all these little high spots from the shrinker because it put little dents in it. But I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So I've put the hinge pin back in and the gas strut, and my tilt front end works just fine. I'm not entirely certain that the thermofan's going to fit in there anymore, so it probably just won't. So, I'm pretty happy with that. All that's left for fabrication, apart from just a little fill panel, is I've got to make the guards. So, guard time. So, for the guards, you may recognise this piece of steel. It was the first piece that I put around the back of the chassis. And since I already linished off all the rust, I might as well use it. So first I'm going to do is straighten this edge up, get rid of all these little welds and ripples and things, and then cut the piece the length I need, and then I'm going to clamp a piece of pipe to the bench, bend this up and around, and if everything goes to plan, it will be exactly the right width. So there we have it, two pieces the same size. Now, so I'm going to do the first fold here, work out how wide the piece needs to be, cut off the other edge, and then make some guards. Now to explain how I work these folds out. So I put my mark right there. That is 100mm from the edge of the sheet before I start it. So if I put my square there and measure, it is now 73mm to the edge of the sheet. Now I wanted my piece to be 125mm wide. So now I add an extra 27, come out to 152mm. That's where I put my cut. So if I cut my sheet at 152mm from this edge all the way through, do the fold exactly the same on this side, the overall piece should end up at 125mm wide, which is the width of the front tyre. The rear is a lot easier because it's having a curve on one side and a square fold on the other. So instead of clamping it on a piece of pipe, I'll just clamp a square piece of RHS across there and fold it up against that. So I'll mark these and then do the cut. Ooh, 126mm. But that should do. Now I've just got to go along with the shrinker and shrink just the very edges. That'll put a radius in the whole thing, and then that should fit over the tyre. So, shrinker time. So I've come back onto my shrinker. Because it doesn't have the big opening, it's a lot stronger and can put a lot more force onto the sheet. So that was 3 runs up each side. Now I did make this longer than it needed to be so I can cut the ends off and get rid of the weird shapes, but that fits pretty good. And well, it's not quite the same radius it had before, but it still looks okay. It's better to have it a little bit wider than not wide enough. But that hugs the tyre pretty nicely. So I'm going to have to make some brackets to go from here onto the steering hub. I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen, but you'll see it in the next video when it's done. The rear wheels will be done pretty much the same way. They'll have a radius on one side, but the other side will just be a square edge. And where they go onto the body, there will just be some riv nuts in the body that'll come through the square edge side of the guard, and that's because the rear section of the body is removable. So I'm going to keep going with these, but the video is going to end here. It's 2:30 Saturday afternoon. I've been at this on and off all week because baby. But in the next video you see the cubman. Hopefully it's painted and doing mad drifts around the yard. Anyway, that's it for this video. As always, customize everything.